Thank you for being my guest. So, ladies and gentlemen, Silvija Ābele comes also from Europe, so it's getting very late for us right now. It's 2 p.m. It's 10 p.m. our time. Silvija is a nutritionist. She is a certified GAPS practitioner, bio-individual nutrition consultant, researcher. She is based in Riga, Latvia, and I'm so happy that she joined us today because we had questions about GAPS diet already and if this is important and how important this is in order to basically support our children with ADHD or autism, and how basically the gastrointestinal tract conditions are actually affecting the brain. So Silvija, you are an absolute expert on that, and I am inviting you to just share what are your insights and why you believe that this is so important when it comes to ADHD and autism.
Yes, thanks, Tina, for having me on this summit. I am myself with a GAPS diet about 10 years now. It is when studying homeopathy, I saw this book in the hands of a nutrition module teacher at the time. And just seeing that there is autism and ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, depression, schizophrenia on the cover, and the book is about diet, how diet can help to first restore gut health and then to reach brain and its functions. So I was just amazed by this idea. I was surprised. That was new. That was opening a new, how to say, horizons in my thinking, in my understanding. So I said to myself then, still being homeopathy student, if there is somebody who could help these children with autism, ADHD, and so on, I want to be the person doing this. And in time, after graduating my homeopathy college, so I was eligible to study, to apply for studying GAPS diet. Yes, since then, I never looked back because, I gave little finger to GAPS diet, and it took all my life, all my energy, all my interest, and I even changed my career. I quit my academical career and I went back to university, same as Natasha Campbell McBride, GAPS diet's author. She also went back to university because she could not help her own autistic child with her knowledge of medical doctor. She is a neurosurgeon by education, and so she had no tools to help her own child. So she went back to university. So personally, I have no autism in my family or ADHD, but somehow my willingness to help children was so strong. My own children, I have 3 grown-up children now. So 2 of them were struggling with asthma diagnosis. And I had 2 children also struggling with middle ear infections. And so this is how I started my holistic, thinking and looking for some solutions for my children. And then, after I became a GAPS practitioner. So yes, this autism and ADHD diagnosis were one of my interests. And then I kept my promise. At the university studying nutrition, I did 2 studies. So one was actually master's degrees study, and second one bachelor study. So first was GAPS diet for children with autism, autistic spectrum disorder, and second one GAPS diet for children with ADHD. And in both studies, we could demonstrate that diet is giving a possibility to reduce symptoms in both cases for autistic children and for children with ADHD. So I have no presentation to share. I have them on my screen, but maybe it's just not so important. I can tell some numbers. So for autism study, so what we did, we had a small group of children. We had 10 children with autism diagnosis in a diet group and 7 children in control group, so no intervention planned. And in 3 months' time, not even being on 100% of the GAPS diet, we could see, using different questionnaires, we could see a reduction of different autism symptoms from 13 to 43% in reduction. So yeah, for example, ATEC scores reduced by 23%. ATEC is a frequently used evaluation tool, like a questionnaire used by specialists and by parents. Then another ASD questionnaire showed us the children reduced symptoms by 25. Another behavior checklist questionnaire showed us 29% reduction. And then overall parent global evaluation of the progress showed us 43% improvement when compared to imaginary zero line at the beginning of a study. So altogether 13 to 43% using different questionnaires were demonstrated as the results. And imagine if these families would be feeding their children 100% GAPS diet, possibly results could be even better in higher percentages. So this showed us a huge potential. And of course, I am not the first one applying this diet for children with autism. So the first one was actually GAPS author, Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. So she now teaches other medically educated people, doctors, nurses, osteopaths, homeopaths, and so many other medical people working in medical fields. So altogether, I believe we have now about 3,000 GAPS practitioners all over the world. And on gaps.me, this is an official website of GAPS diet, you can find GAPS practitioners listed by countries. So you can, get contacts and email or phone call them. So if you are looking for a GAPS practitioner in your environment, in your country. And then another study, so this was already a bit larger study. We had 52 children, and we used GAPS diet now for children with ADHD. Not all of them were diagnosed, because I don't know how it is in Slovenia or in United States. In Latvia, parents need to be, patient. Sometimes these waiting lists, waiting for diagnostics is quite long, and so this is why we took for a study not only children who had already diagnosis of ADHD, but who were having symptoms, and according to let's say GP, general practitioner, or some neurologist or some other doctors, they had confirmations they have these symptoms, but there was no official diagnosis yet. And so in this other study, yes, also we had planned to apply GAPS diet. And we also formulated a prebiotic having a very, beneficial substances in this prebiotic. It was having like humic acid, fulvic acid, like humic substances, helping to restore gut microbiome. And also it has like wood lignin and chaga mushroom. So we divided all these children in 3 groups now. One was GAPS diets group, another was GAPS diets plus this prebiotic group. So we were hoping to get maybe added value out of GAPS and prebiotic use in the study. And then there was a control group. And so this study as well, in 2 months' time, we could see statistically significant difference between control group and 2 diet groups. And this also shows that you don't even need 3 months time to see good results. So symptoms of different expressions of ADHD reduced. And also here again, diet was not 100% applied, because each family, they did their best. Of course, as a project leader, as author of these studies, I provided parents with little booklets of GAPS recipes. We had some first live meetings, then with COVID, we had online meetings. So I explained the diet, I answered their questions. So I did my best to support these families. But these families themselves are the ones who did the work and change diet. I mean, you touched a little bit diet here as well. Today, to change diet is the main and most difficult work in order to help child or ourselves to restore gut health first, and then reach a whole potential, like the brain functions and physical health. And this is why I'm so enthusiastic about diet in general, and especially this low carb direction. In low carb direction, you know, we can sometimes argue, is the GAPS diet low carb really? Because we possibly don't go so low in carbs, because we still are allowed to enjoy vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds, and greens. And yes, so it might be on an edge of low carb, or maybe not so low carb, yeah. But of course, we reduce specific carbohydrates, namely sugar. So it's complex carbohydrates. It's 3 complex carbohydrates. We suggest these families or anybody who would like to try GAPS diet for their health. So we take off sugar. We take off lactose, which is sugar in a milk, and starch. And starch, I don't know how it's again in Slovenia, in Latvia, to take out starch is like oh my God, it's the most difficult kind of product to carbohydrate to take off your diet, because we are maybe well known for this good kind of cakes and industry and culture. When we go to, you know, visit somebody, we bring cakes, best cakes and pastries and all these, you know, and this is kind of, and breads, and that's kind of big part of bread is a big part of Latvian like traditional diet. And to say, you know, you are not allowed not only to take your white bread or your oats or your rye bread, but also you should take off your diet even rice and which is a non how to say gluten-free grains, right? Yes, and then of course starch is in the potatoes as well. That's another big kind of thing, you know, for Latvian person to take off yes potatoes of diet. But you know, my approach would be not, especially with children and teenagers, not so much first to focus on what should be taken off your plate. Because if you say to a teenager's parents, you know, your teenager now should be avoiding, you know, at best, like cereals in the morning, you know, breads and pizzas and pastas and, you know, and sweets and rice and potatoes. And so what's left, you know, the eyes coming bigger and bigger. So what can I feed my child or my teenagers then? My approach would be, in most cases, to suggest parents and families to start from what you add in to the diet of your child, of yourself. Because what's actually missing a lot in our modern times diet is good fats. And ADHD and autism spectrum disorder and many anxiety you mentioned here, and so many of these neurological disorders, they are disorders of a brain or brain function, simply, yeah, in a simple words. And so you need to feed your brain in order to get better function, and first to restore your cells and so that they can do these functions. So, and what brain is actually, if you somehow, you know, specialists, scientists, they calculated possibly open somebody's, that person's skull and weigh out, the dry mass of a brain, and they say it's about 60% fat. So this would tell us that we cannot provide excellent functions of brain of children or ourselves just by vegan and vegetarian diet. Vegan and vegetarian diet can be helpful as a detox protocol for some time, for cleansing. Let's say summer coming and spring coming, it's a nice season to maybe to eat a bit lighter. You can survive on salad and lettuce leaves and so on. But when the cold winter, let's say cold season comes, autumn and winter, the body asks for nourishing foods and for fatty foods. And so, yes, good fats would be the first top kind of food group I would suggest people would look at, and not only look at, but start incorporating more in their diets. Because if you take away all foods teenager would eat, there would be maybe rebelling, it's kind of negativity added to the food, and it's not the way it should be. So by starting nourishing your children better first, by adding good fats, that's one group of products. Then a meat stock, which is a GAP staple food. Meat stock would provide you nourishment for your cells. First, it will heal your stomach cells, your gut lining cells, and then the rest of your body cells. And I like to joke that these enterocytes, these cells who basically build, can I show the picture like this? Yes. So this is kind of course, like a funny picture to show the difference between healthy enterocyte and sick enterocyte. And these cells, aligned along each other's side, they build up epithelium of your small intestine. And this is actually your filter whose health, the state of these cells will determine what nutrients in which form and shape will reach other systems of your body, including brain. So this is why I joke that enterocytes, the epithelium cells of your small intestine, are the most important cells in the body, even more important than cells in the brain, right? So meat stocks then will provide a lot of nourishment for your epithelial cells, for your gut health, and then you will increase potential that these nutrients via restored epithelium layer will reach your organs, your systems, your brain in a properly digested form, right? And of course, digestion should be well in place as well in order to not only digest foods like mechanically or chemically, but also so that properly broken down nutrients can then reach all your organs, all your systems, right? So digestion as one of the functions as well of your gastrointestinal tract should be well in order. So yes, fats I mentioned, meat stock, and third is ferments. So fermented foods, which are largely available in Latvia. I believe it's same in Slovenia. We know sauerkraut, we know all these kefir and natural yogurts and cottage cheese, like Latvian way. It's fermented food actually. And so yes, adding these foods in first. So these will take care of your gut lining by meat stock, by feeding the brain, and not only brain cells, any cell in your body is hungry for fatty acids, saturated fats, omega-3 fats, so that the cell can be born, and then healthy cells will provide, let's say, that they will make your organs and your systems, and then they can do their functions, right? So yes, and then fermented foods will give you support for your microbiome. And so in GAP's diet, we actually we try to very efficiently support microbiome in two different ways. One way is by taking off these sugars and starches, we stop feeding bad bacteria in our guts. And then by adding good bacteria via fermented foods, we populate more beneficial bacteria. So it's kind of double effect, you know. From one side takes these foods liked by bad bacteria, so then they get starved, and then adding good bacteria in. And of course you can use also probiotics, you know, somebody here mentioned probiotics, and you can use prebiotics, but the most most available and the most nutritious and in how to say differentiation is more available in natural foods rather than in probiotic capsule, right? But again, there is you know, case and a case. If there is difficulties for a child to accept many of these nutritious foods, then you can of course go and help with probiotics and prebiotics, right? Yes, so that's kind of my take on it. And of course, GAPS diet, we have these principles. The GAPS diet was established, first book was published in 2004. Now it's translated in, I don't know, maybe 25 languages, which proves, this fact proves that how much people appreciate this approach, how much it's helping. And I'm proud to say it's also translated in Latvian language now, and it's available. Yes, and but again, we have these principles, but at the same time, any diet, including GAPS diet, should be applied individually. So we should take into account persons' yes, likes, dislikes, allergies, intolerances, and of course, picky eating is a big topic in the society of community of autistic children or ADHD. And then it's easy to say, please add good fats and ferments and meat stock, but you know how to do it if my child would refuse. You mentioned earlier, I heard, you know, go by teaspoon, go gradually. I would even go even backwards. I would say start by half a drop or drop of your ferment juice or sauerkraut juice, and believe that, let's say, keep having hope and trust your child or your own body. It will know what to do with that one drop. One little drop of sauerkraut juice or you know, vegetable medley, that will already start changing your microbiome. And tomorrow it's a different microbiome. So the most difficult thing is to get it started. Once you start, one day, one drop, the second day, 3 drops, third day, you know, 1 teaspoon, and the next steps are becoming easier because you did the first one. And every step is important. Every step, every little step counts. Like, you know, I always say parents, when I teach parents, or just people who come, you know, in GAPS groups to improve their own health, I say your changes in your diet actually starts in the shop, in the supermarket, or maybe you don't even go anymore to the supermarket, but you go to farmers markets now. So that little stop at the shelf of, let's say, so far yesterday or even today you were buying, let's say, cereal for your child or pasteurized milk for your child's breakfast. So just take a pause there, take a break, and with a new knowledge and new understanding, not putting that cereal pack into your basket, it's already a change. And just notice it yourself and clap on your shoulder. I did this little change, and that's already counting. And if you go and buy a sauerkraut juice or fermented sauerkraut or good fats, or, you know, like full fat sour cream, for example, or full fat yogurt, natural yogurt with no added sugars, you know, artificial, whatever, sweeteners and additives. And so that's a big change. And, you know, little by little, so it will build up gradually after, let's say, 3 months, half a year. You will look back and you will see how big change, how big shift has happened, going little by little steps. Yes, so picky eating might be difficult situations, but, you know, also there are specialists, there are also GAPS practitioners who would specialize in these kind of difficulties, and there are many strategies and many many little tips to go forward and to go little by little steps. And results will come. You know, GAPS diet, with my little 2 studies, we could prove that it gives good results for these children. And the fact that the book is translated in 25 languages also proves that it works. And it helps many people, many families, helps their children, helps themselves to get back their health by natural means. And this is, I would say, the hardest work. But it can be done, yes, gradually by little steps, and hopefully bringing you to the moment of understanding, and seeing the results, and the moment of big gratitude that it exists. We can just buy the book or even go online. It costs nothing, and read the information and start implementing. And so there is, as I say, there is no shortcut. There is no way around. If you want to build your health, the basis will be the diet, the food you eat every day. Every spoon, every fork you pick up, let's say, at every mealtime, will feed either your bad health and your symptoms or your good health. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. Are those studies that you were mentioning also in this book, so that people could see the studies that you were referencing before? Are those in the book?
Oh, no. GAPS Diet's book. This was published way before my studies. So I read this book, and then I was inspired to do my studies. So okay, my studies could not be in this book, of course, but the first study on GAPS, I was calling it then low carb diet for children with autistic spectrum disorder, or SCD GAPS. Sometimes I combine SCD GAPS because GAPS is built on the shoulders of SCD diet. And SCD diet is a specific carbohydrate diet. So it's basically having same principles, which food should be taken out. And of course, I mentioned starch, sugar, lactose, artificial sweeteners, and let's say processed foods as a group should be also taken away, because these would have, many times they would have these sugars, starches, and added, right? So first study I did for autism, this is already published in a scientific literature. And so it's a Latvian Academy of Science kind of open access online magazine or journal. So everybody could, anybody interested in the field could just Google it in and find and download. It's free for access. And so then you can read all these results and some principles of GAPS diet. And another study on ADHD, that's more recent. And this year's one of my goals is to write up a paper, because this is even larger study and maybe even better results, more solid results, statistically very carefully evaluated. And so, yes, so that's not yet in publication, but it will come. And GAPS also, Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, she a few years ago with her team, they established GAPS Science Foundation, which is a non-profit organization. You can donate funding in order to support research in this field. Of course, if you would go to PubMed or some scientific databases, you will not find lists and lists and lists of GAPS diets, studies. But I hope that my little studies would add a little bit of, let's say, to the scientific basis of this therapeutic diet. Yes, I believe one of my studies, which is already published in scientific literature, is added in their website already. So second one should come. Yes, so little by little, and GAPS Science Foundation are doing studies. So they're collecting money to do studies, to do research, to prove, let's say, to put a GAPS diet on more solid scientific basis.
Amazing. So you mentioned good fats. What would be typical good fats that GAPS diet would propose that, children would eat?
Yes, good question. So first of all, it's saturated fats, so animal fats. So GAPS diet is allowing to enjoy full fat dairy, full fat yogurts, full fat sour cream. So we are not afraid of fats. We are not afraid of cholesterol. As Natasha Campbell McBride always emphasizes, cholesterol is needed to heal your body. I see Julie Matthews coming in as the next speaker. Oh, that's excellent. Julie Matthews, by the way, her study was a huge inspiration for my study on autism. Yes, so thanks to Julie, and say hello to Julie. Yes, good fats, saturated fats are allowed, and omega-3, of course, and fish, and fatty fish, and butter, and ghee, and full-fat sour cream, and avocado, and MCT oil, so coconut oil, eggs. Egg yolk is a rich in good fats and cholesterol and lecithin and choline and many nutrients needed for our brain health as well. And then, of course, nuts and seeds and their oils and good quality, freshly, extra virgin olive oil. So these would be the main foods I would see as a source for good fats.
Amazing. But you were mentioning that GAPS is avoiding lactose, but still, if we have full fat sour cream, there still is lactose in it. So should it be, is that okay?
Yes, that's a good question. This is always slightly confusing for people. We take off, let's say mostly it's pasteurized milk and products developed from the pasteurized milk. Mm-hmm. If you take sour cream, or let's say Latvian way, this cottage cheese, fermented cottage cheese, right? Or natural yogurts, yes, it has bacteria in it, in these foods, and bacteria would already digest, I would say, most of lactose and casein present there. So I would say also in my practice, most people who were at some point diagnosed with lactose intolerance, actually they can, with no problem, consume, let's say, include fermented milk products in their diets. Once you start restoring your gut health, your epithelium of that small intestine, this is where in those little, micro, how should I say, microvilli, right? This is where the lactase enzyme digesting lactose actually is sitting. If your enterocytes are sick, you have no microvilli, you have no place for those lactase enzymes to sit on. Once you start restoring your enterocytes, you will get back your villi, your enzymes, and then you are more okay to, let's say, to consume those fermented milk products, because they will, first of all, they have almost no lactose themselves in the first place. But even if let's say would fresh milk, for example, raw milk, you could digest that easily if your epithelium is healthy, back to normal health as a nature intended it to be. So yes, this kind of milk products, milk foods are kind of larger topic. We should always go individually, because of course some people would be able to take to enjoy fermented milk products, but maybe some would really have this real allergy or casein allergy, and of course you should not force on it. As I said, it's bio-individual. And Julie Matthews actually is one of the first, I would say, specialists who coined this bio-individual nutrition approach. And so it applies to any diet, and including GAPS diet. So we always go with symptoms, always go with medical history, with a child situation, and apply, and we do exceptions. We go little by little, step by step, one product at a time. And so, yes, so you bio-individualize, right, Julie?
Absolutely. Yes, it needs to be personalized. So you made such a beautiful entry for My next guest, Julie Matthews. Silvia, thank you so much. You're invited to stay and listen our conversation with Julie. Just to let you know, dear people, Silvia has also prepared a gift for you, and it's called Taking Care of Gut Health with GAPS Diet and Smart Supplementation. We will provide the link, so you will be able to download it and see it. So Silvia, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thanks for having me.
I have someone from Europe with me today. And yes, I hope to talk to you soon. And yes, take care. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Silvia.